In this video, we'll take a look at some of the new features that were added to PXT-Live and PXT-Live Plus over the past several months. The versions that I'll be showing in this video are PXT-Live version 1.1.0 and PXT-Live Plus version 1.0.4. In the User Preferences file, you can now specify a velocity curve and a pad threshold. The settings available for these are the same as those that are available in Push's default functionality. When the matrix is assigned a session control, either in accessory mode or the clip play poly sub mode, the LEDs will always reflect clip color, even if the clip is triggered, playing, or recording. By default, in the sequence sub modes, the display will always show scale information. You can now change this in User Preferences. If I change the setting to false, now the display will show the name of the selected track and will only show scale information when the Scales button is turned on. In previous versions, clips created by PXT-Live would have no name. We've now added an auto name feature, and this applies to clips created with the sequence submodes, as well as clips created by holding down Shift and pressing New. By default, in the clip play mono submode, the chop pads are on the top and the loop pads are on the bottom. You can now change this in User Preferences. I can change this setting to true, and now the loop pads will be on the top and the chop pads will be on the bottom. In both of the clip play submodes, there's now a realign function. You can access that by holding down Delete and pressing one of the chop pads. This allows you to realign clips that have become out of sync. To give you an example, I'll intentionally throw one of these clips out of sync and then realign it. Also, in both of the clip play submodes, you can now access triplet quantizations. So you've got access to 16th note triplets, 8th note triplets, and quarter note triplets. Some new hooks have been added to the clip play poly submode so that you can now access it with Max for Live. This allows you to use the facilities in Max for Live to create things like button press recorders or other means of chopping up clips. You can find this example device that I've got here on our forum, and it documents how this interaction works. To give you an example, I can use these radio buttons here to chop the clip up, or I can turn on this random option, which will randomly chop the clip up. In the User Plus Preferences file, the list of keys that are available for assignment in accessory mode has been greatly extended to include virtually every shortcut that Live recognizes. PXT-Live Plus includes several files that could be modified to suit your needs. Previously, you needed to use a text-based editor to modify these files, and that was somewhat error-prone and confusing. For example, to modify the MIDI messages and LED colors of the pads in user mode, you had to modify this file. And this format doesn't make it very easy to visualize what the pad layout is actually going to look like after making your modifications. To help with that, we've now got an editor available which you can download from the forum. As you can see here, it's much easier to visualize what's going on. Making modifications is also very simple. For example, to change the LED color of the pad, I simply click on it and select the pad color that I want. You can see that change is reflected in the editor. This editor also allows multiple pads to be modified at the same time. So for example, I can modify the LED color of all the pads on this column at the same time. There's also a chord type editor that allows you to edit the chord types that will be available in chord mode. And again, instead of using numbers as we would in a text file, which makes things hard to visualize, here you've got keyboards, which makes it very easy to see what the chords you're defining look like. And lastly, there's a MIDI mode editor. This allows you to add additional pages of control change messages that can be sent from MIDI mode. To give you an example of how this works, I'll add a page of common control change messages. And now in MIDI mode, I can switch between the default page and the page I just set up by holding down Shift and using the in and out buttons. In meters mode, when the Shift button is held down, each column of buttons functions as a volume control for the associated track, and the track state buttons function as a volume control for the master track. Also, if the mute button is turned on, the track state buttons function as mute switches with momentary and toggle functionality. And if the solo button is turned on, they function as solo switches with momentary and toggle functionality. Previously, in capture mode, only chords and notes that were unique would be captured. For example, if a chord existed twice in a clip, it would only be captured once. I'll give you an example of this with a simple clip. So I'll play the clip first. As you can see, this clip contains 7 chords, but only 4 of them are unique. The first and fourth chord are identical, the second and fifth chord are identical, the third chord is unique, and the fourth and seventh are identical. So again, there's only 4 unique chords here. So if I capture from this clip, it's only going to capture the 4 unique chords. There's now a new capture option called plus dupes. When this is selected, all the chords and notes in a clip will be captured regardless of whether or not they're unique. So in this case, 7 chords will be captured.